is DataFriday. Your host is Jean-Georges Perrin, and today we are going to continue build up on the previous episode where we ingested COVID-19 data. Now we are going to start analyzing this data and experience a little bit more with data quality. So let's get back quickly to where we were before. So let me run Eclipse with our new app here called Early Transformation App. Okay, so it's syncing the repository, getting the last data from the Johns Hopkins University, as we looked at previously. It's ingesting all the files. It's taking a little bit of time. I've created, if you can look at the code later, but I'm creating a helper method called COVID ingester ingest, where you give it a Spark session and it's going to look at that. So here's the data starting to flow in, okay, and here it starts to be interesting about what's going on, okay. So if you remember well, in our last episode we had to normalize the data to see what was there, okay, what was coming in and from the various files that were coming from the Johns Hopkins University. So look at what is here, okay. So we have, this is a data completely not touched, but in some way of a good format, okay. So we've got good dates here, good formatted dates. We've got a lot of null columns, okay. So and this is going to be problematic if we want to do a little bit more analytics later. So when you look at the data here, you start seeing things like, okay, it's mainland China here, and here you see that you don't have a state, okay. For you've got London, Ontario, which is a city of Ontario in Canada, but it's not really a state or province, okay. Same thing here for Santa Clara. So we will have to look a little bit into all these things and try to normalize this data so it can actually be really exploited, okay. So this is really part of the exploration, the discovery about the data in this second phase post ingestion, okay. So if you look at that, you see also okay, the schema, okay, with the right types we were expecting. One thing that I added there is a number of partitions, okay. So as we saw in a previous episode of DataFriday, Spark is storing its data in partitions, and when you're doing unions like we just did here, it's going to create one partition per source file, and that's why in this scenario it's going to be 156 partitions because we have 156 files, and same thing for the records growing. Okay, so now I've added a little bit of a function here called state, called analyze column, and you pass it a data frame and a state, and it gives you some information. Like, so it's analyzing state. You see here that Texas is mentioned. It's the most mentioned state here in the data. You see that's a state. Here you see that the lowest is really, well, there's null, okay. I think it's probably mentioned more than 0. There is an aside location, okay, and things like that. So you see that by looking at that, you start to have a feeling that things need to be a little bit cleaned up, okay. And that's really the part of data quality. It's you're getting your data inside your system by ingesting it, but when you look at it, you still see that it's not okay. There's still some things, okay. So it might be kind of insignificant in some way, like, oh, okay, it's one record being called unassigned, but let's drill a little bit more into that, okay. I've also run analyze column and country, and you see that here, for example, well, we've got the US, okay, but we've got China, and we also got mainland China. So it means that there is a split at some point where China was called China, and that's another point China was called mainland China, in opposition, I guess, of Taiwan. But let's not go into the politics here. But that's an interesting thing. So we need to find a way to combine these two, because otherwise we won't be able to make proper analytics. And okay, so and if we look at the least use of that, there might be a similar use case with Korea. Here on North Island, which is probably Northern Ireland, and it's actually part of the United Kingdom, but whatever. So we've got to look into this data, trying to understand a little bit of what's going on there. Okay, so to look at the data, you've got various ways. Okay, so I'd like to use Spark, and I'm going to code a little bit there in my transformation block to see what's going on and run. I would say various experiments to see what's going on. So first thing is I want to the first thing is what I'm going to do is I'm going to repartition to one. Right now it doesn't provide much. Okay, just it's going to bring all the data into one single partition. As of now, as I said, it's not really super useful, but it's a good habit to do. So everything, especially when you've got a rather small data set, if you want to later join, to perform some joint operation, or even aggregation, it's going to be more efficient. So let's do it so it's done. The second is I'm going to rename all China's, mainland China and China, as China. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to create a column called basically the column country. Okay, so it's still the same column country, but when, and that's a little bit of a weird syntax, so you've got to follow me there. When the column called the country column contains China, it's going to just be China. Otherwise, it's going to take the value of country. Okay, so let's run that and see what's happening with that kind of code. Okay, and while it's running, it's time for a little bit of a sip of a tea. And I realized that I could actually cache this in maybe a Parquet file, and this will do. We will do that later. So it's running some of the statistics I want to run on it. Okay, here it's coming. So same thing here. I'm displaying that. We can also make that a little bit bigger. I think the data is more interesting than the code this morning. So we've got China's, okay, here, and we also have some nulls. Okay, we have some unassigned location from the Diamond Princess. So we've got to find a strategy about how we're going to handle this. You see, Taiwan is here, so there's Taiwan is not going to be, we're not going to be in trouble too much with Taiwan. Okay, Macau too. Okay, so let's look at the analyzed records. So you see here, here we have the states clearly spelled out. And we also see that nothing has changed much here. Oh, Sparta County. And look here. See, we have only one China, which is about the sum of the both of them before, probably exactly the sum of the one we had before. So we're getting good here on the country thing. Okay, let's look at the lowest country here. We still have Hong Kong SAR here. East Timor, Republic of Korea. Do we have anything Korea? So this is Korea is interesting. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at what's going on with Korea here. Okay, one way to do that is to filter the data on specifically Korea and see what's going on. Okay, I can use that. So here is, I can filter on country, and it contains Korea. Okay, so it's going to do only the thing with Korea. Basically, this code here is not going to be used anyway, but it's not going to hurt. Okay, so let's have a look at Korea. So if we look at the analyze column here function, it's a very basic column, a very basic operation, and I think it's useful to have a few of these utilities in your stock there. So basically, it's taking a data frame, it's taking a column name. So basically, and it's system out. Okay, I could do logs, but so basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a new data frame based on the data frame here. I'm grouping by the column, and I'm doing some aggregate. I'm just counting the number of different values in this column, and I'm just renaming it as k count. Okay, so k. I use k for classes where I put my constants. K comes from the German constant. I think the Germans are a symbol of rigor. Constants are a symbol of rigor, so it makes sense to use k, and count because it's how I decided to name the column. And if you look at the first thing I'm doing is an order by descending, so I've got the highest value first, showing that. Then I'm actually doing the same thing, but I'm doing it on an ascending, showing the 5 first values there. What I'd like to change here to see a little bit better is change it to false. And here I'm just keeping the default 20 and false as well. So my columns are not truncated and I can actually see what's going on. Okay. Okay. And then after, what I'm doing is I'm just counting the number of records and showing it. So let's look at what happened there. Okay, let's look at what happened there. Okay, so there was no state. There's no. Doesn't seem like there's a notion of state in Korea. If I look at the raw data, you see sometimes it's South Korea, sometimes it's Korea South. There's a Republic of Korea as well. I've seen somewhere. So if we look at the proper analysis, there is indeed the Republic of Korea, South Korea, and Korea South. So I'm kind of confused about the Republic of Korea, what this means more precisely. So there's nothing like a little bit of a Googling on that to make sure that, you know, it's not like a former East Germany where they called the Democratic Republic of Germany, and it was actually not a democratic one. But so let's just look at that. So the Republic of Korea seems to be really South Korea. So yeah, and there's even also people asking this question. So South Korea officially is Republic of Korea. Okay, so see that's kind of that's the kind of details we've got to go through when we do data analysis to make sure that all that is good. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to go back to my code here, and as a similar thing as I was doing here, I'm going to do the same thing with Korea. Okay, so I don't want to do just if it contains Korea, because we might get some data from North Korea at some point. So let's just be very rigorous here and standardize on South Korea, which seems to be the most popular norm. So I'm going to take Republic of Korea. So if my column country contains I'm going to replace that by equals Republic of Korea, then I am going to call that South Korea. Okay, and otherwise, what am I missing here? Why isn't it unhappy here? Okay, why is Eclipse not very happy? That's the beauty of live. I'm probably missing a column somewhere here. Parenthesis somewhere. Let's just do that. Okay, that's okay. If I'm taking this block, putting it back here, okay, this is okay for it. And then country, what we say, if it's Republic of Korea here, and we said equals. I don't like equals actually. Sorry, that's that. Okay, that was equals. That was a problem. Sorry. Equals. Equal to. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, got confused a minute there. And this is going to be, as we said, South Korea. Okay, this is going to be South Korea. And actually here what we're going to do is I can have dot or in my condition df.country equals to this one here. Okay, and it's going to be Korea comma South here. And also for, you know, historical reason, I would say I'm not a great fan of having commas in my values. We never know what's going on with that. So let's run it. Okay, let's run it and let's see what happened to my Koreas. Or did I reunify the South Korean together? So yes, that's a little bit of a. And then I admit that Java might not be the perfect thing here to do all these things, because if you're starting doing that in a more in a replay environment, oh, I did something wrong. You may actually make it a little bit easier. And we're going to debug it live. See, when Spark is not happy, it explains it quickly. Okay, so resolve attribute country missing from there. So oh yeah, that's a kind of a classic one where I use method chaining in this iteration, and the problem is I've been playing with the same column country, so Spark doesn't like that too much, and if I do that, actually it will work exactly the same way. Okay, so it was the expected way. So let's start it again. Sorry about that, guys. And I recognize that kind of lines are also a bit verbose, and could be nicer. I could use the SQL as well, but I just wanted to use the API as a data frame API. Okie dokie. So it's coming. I see a lot of South Korea here. Oh, this is good. Okay, I've got one partition. Yeah, that makes sense. It's still working on the analyzing the column state. Okay, so state is not going to be a bit useless in our scenario just right now. I could also have commented the country for China because we're not concerned about China in this scenario here. Okay, so let's have a look now at country. Okay, analyzing country. Come on, country, come on. Okay, South Korea 156. So it really means, I didn't look at the numbers before, but it really means that we have what we want. We have South Korea all over the place instead of having various variation of Korea. So that's really good. So now I could remove my filter here and go back to my to the rest of the data. Okay. So I've looked a little bit more at the data before, and I'm also I wanted to show you a few things I found out by myself, and then it's going to be a little bit faster for us. Okay, sorry, it's a bit small here, but here is a few examples. Okay, so when you look at the first example, this one here, what you see here is that it's a whole data set. Okay. And it has something which I like a lot, which is this combined key column. Okay, so in the US, you see that it's actually taking the place of measurement as part of the it's not the state capital or anything or any special thing. It's really the place of measurement. It could be the county in some cases, but it's what they really call the admin column. So it's combining the admin column we have here, okay, the admin column here, and it's combining it with the state here, and it's also combined that with the country, okay, country being here, okay. So that's for the US. When we are in not the US, you see that it's taking the state, same thing, and the country, and it's combining it, like Abruzzo, Italy, or the Aguascalientes, okay, sorry, in Mexico, okay. In a lot of data, it's the same. In a lot of data sets, and you see, it's also there for China. There was already a filter in China just to see how it behaves for China as well. So that's the same thing. Okay, so state combined with China. And in early records, we did not have this combined key. Okay, so this is where you can see that things like we had mainland China. And so that's one of the problems we already solved in the data to unify on China, and we did not, and we also have null values. Okay, so for that, I'm just going to use a small function that is going to help us create this FIPS for. Not this, sorry, this combined key for all our records. Okay, and this is the last modification we are going to another modification. So basically, what I'm doing is, when the combined key is null, okay, so when we do not have a combined key, you're going to create one by concatenating with a separator the comma, which is a separator being comma space, the state and the country. Otherwise, just use a country. I don't know why I I think this is wrong. This is wrong. This is this, guys. Yeah. Okay. See. So, and in this scenario here, I'm creating a date, and I'm just taking the date part of the date time of the data. So I have just a date. Okay. So having just a date is going to be a lot easier if I want to do aggregations on dates, for example, or just specific analysis on dates. So let's run that and see what happens. So what will happen now is I'm going to continue working on that, and it's a really an iterative process. Okay, so I know that I want to look at the data. I know that I need to be careful about the quality of the data is coming, especially even if it's coming from only one place, like the Johns Hopkins University. It still has to be processed to match certain levels of quality. Okay, where I can start doing some analytics on that, and I need to be sure that all the columns I want to be used are of decent quality. So here you see well, I brought back the states, and see some states are kind of weird. Okay, because that's a states. That's not that's not a state. Lackland, Texas. Okay, or Spartanburg County, not too far away from my place, or Vermont here. So I will have to look at those data as well. But if I look at the country, it seems good. I still have my Russian Federation. It's probably going to be Russia as well. I've got East Timor. I've got to look at that, because there's also some political discussions there, so it might be something else. So anyway, so that's the kind of things where I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing. I'm probably going to increase the number of data I'm showing here. If I look at my data that starts to be looking like something good, I still have, okay, China, here it's, as we said, it's good. If I look a little bit further down the road, I see that I've got my everywhere I've got my combined key, okay, and the combined key appeared after February, so that's good. I also have to process the case of the Diamond Princess, because this is kind of polluting a little bit everywhere. And you see that I've got my date. Okay, so I have my date now as a date, not as a date time, so I can later do what I want to do there. Okay, so that's the first step. See, it's we spent half an hour together. It's the first step about cleaning the data. It's really a very important part of doing of part of the processing. I will have to continue this process before I can start really having some analytics. Okay, so this example will stay, and I'll continue another lab, so you can have access to this lab as it is right now. I think that you know what's coming. Next week we're going to drill more into that and hopefully start looking at some analytics here, because we are still not there. So it takes a little time, but we are starting to build this pipeline. Okay, so what's your takeaway from here? It's really, the first takeaway is, so far we've been able to do everything within Spark. Okay, I've seen some cases where the data quality operations I've been doing externally in scripts, in external applications. So the benefit of having the data quality being run directly as part of Spark will help you digest and use the benefits of Spark being a very a scalable platform. Okay, and it's also one place where you can do it. So that's one benefit. You also see that using the Java language, I have been able to do everything in a single place. Okay, from ingesting the data from GitHub to ingesting it within Spark and then starting my data quality, all using the Java language. I don't need Python, I don't need Scala. I'm not starting a war, I'm just saying what I've been using. Okay, so as a data engineer, this is things I've known and I like. Okay, so I'm comfortable using that, and I know a lot of people who are also comfortable using that, so it makes it easier to be maintained afterwards. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Data Friday. That was already Data Friday number 11. Next week we are going to go through starting a little bit of analytics around these data sets, because I think it deserves it. So thank you guys. Enjoy your weekend and see you next Friday for the next episode of Data Friday.